And welcome back to the Field Coach Experts podcast, where we share real stories from the field that help franchise teams shift from solving today's fires to building tomorrow's growth. And this month, our theme is strategic growth coaching implementation. And that is really the cornerstone of everything we do here at AC Inc., the Field Coach Experts. And we've been talking about how strategic growth coaching, or we call it SGC for short, and how it helps franchisors balance operational support with proactive coaching that drives long-term franchisee success, which, let's face it, that's what we all want. So today, I'm very excited. I'm joined by Linga. I've changed your name, Linda. Linda Young. Exactly. Linda Young. She is one of our advisors here at AC Inc. And Linda has led several pretty big strategic growth coaching implementation projects with some of our franchise brands that we've partnered with. And we're really going to dig into her work with Happinest, which is a portfolio company with multiple franchise systems under its umbrella. And Linda has really helped build a coaching structure from the ground up. And so today we're going to learn what that looked like, what the outcomes were, or are, because I think, Linda, you'll get into it in a sec, but I think you're still working with them. And we really want to understand how or why, let's say, implementation, us working with brands to implement strategic growth coaching is so critical for the franchisors. So, Linda, welcome. So happy to have you here. I know you're a little bit nervous and doing podcasts aren't your favorite thing, or at least that's what you think. You just don't know how much fun we're going to have today.
Well, I'm excited to find out.
Awesome. Okay, so can you just tell us, because I really like our guests to introduce themselves and just talk about your role with AC Inc. and what kind of work that you do with some of our clients.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I have spent the last 17 plus years working in franchise systems, mostly service-based industries like home care, wellness, campgrounds, early childhood education. Started out as a field coach myself, and then I went on to manage a team of field coaches, and now I'm with AC Inc. as an advisor. And I really found that my sweet spot is helping franchisees and franchisors also lead their teams and take their businesses to the next level by helping them focus on everything from operational foundations to financial decision making and also strategic growth. I've really enjoyed working with both emerging and mature franchise systems because each one brings unique challenges, as you know, Jen, and opportunities. And I get to help the leaders find the clarity that they need to move their business forward. And that is super exciting to me.
Yeah, it's very, very impactful. I think that's why all of us do what we do is because of the impact that we want to really ultimately have on franchisees. And that the way we do that is through working with franchisors so that they can have solid systems to again to positively impact their franchisees so that the franchisees can make money, be happy doing what they're doing, and grow their business into an asset for sure. So okay, awesome. Thank you
Absolutely.
for that intro. Now let's talk a little bit about Happinest. And so I would love you, and we're going to talk specifically about them because that's been a really big engagement that you've done. And I think you've been working with them for well over a year, maybe even more. You can tell us more about that. But I'd love to know who they are and, in your understanding, what brought them to AC Inc. And what were those pain points that they were experiencing that they came to us to help them solve?
Yeah. Yeah, Happiness, for people that might be listening that maybe aren't familiar, is a growing portfolio of franchise brands, each with its own unique products in the service industry also. And they have very talented teams in place. And they're managing multiple systems under one umbrella, and that can get complicated really quickly, right? Even with the talented folks that they have in all of their different brands. So really, they needed help, I think, just to support their franchisees, not only that, but to align their support strategies across the brands. They wanted to make sure that every franchisee had a consistent experience and that they had the tools and the guidance that they needed for the franchisees, but also for the coaches, that everyone had what they needed to provide a consistent experience, to be able to approach it in a scalable and repeatable way across all of the brands. So that was really one of the biggest reasons why they wanted to go on this adventure with us at AC Inc.
Yeah, no, I remember, originally when they first started and chatting with Rachel a little bit. She was the brand president of one of their brands. I think she's since moved into a different role, but so commonly with whether it's one big brand or multiple umbrella brands, that everybody's doing things a different way, right? Every
Mhm.
coach is doing things their own way, what they maybe learned at a different brand. And so there is that lack of consistency, and franchisees are getting different experiences based on whoever they're working with. And I've worked with brands where franchisees got really mad because that franchisee's coach comes and sees them once a month or whatever. My coach never comes, and they really dig in and do all of these things, all this financial planning and looking at the P&Ls. My coach never does that, right? So I think
Mhm.
that is a really big pain point for a lot of bigger brands, that they need to solve. So let's talk a little bit about and dig into what that looked like, because we get asked a lot, and I think it's hard for people kind of to conceptualize, what does this look like, right? How do you guys come and help us? So I'd love to dig into that so that we can help people understand. We really come to you and understand what's going on, what your goals are, and then we customize our solutions to meet those
Mhm.
goals. And so this is
Mhm.
exactly what we did with Happiness. So tell us about that, and what were those first steps of understanding what their needs were, and then getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we do that, I just want to kind of tag on to what you were just saying. I think, you know, those gaps that we often see, or those inconsistencies, I think really do start to kind of tear away at the fabric of the culture of a network. And so it's so important to have consistency and also support that is scalable so that you can grow. I think when you don't have that, that can really get in the way of that growth that you're wanting to achieve as a network, right? So being able to provide that to them is really, really key here. So that was, for foremost, what we were trying to do is, digging in, doing a deep assessment to understand what is the current state of support, right? We have this umbrella, we have all of these brands underneath it. We needed to see, what do we currently have? What was working? What isn't working? Where are the gaps? Because maybe there are some things that we need to keep in place, right? And we needed to understand how all the different brands were actually handling support currently. So we really looked at the entire life cycle, the franchisee life cycle, looked at the onboarding, their growth milestones, how the operations were being supported at that point. This allowed us to identify patterns, uncover pain points, and really dig into what needed to be strengthened before we implemented the strategic growth coaching. So our goal was really to make sure that the foundation was solid so that when we then put strategic growth coaching in, it could be scalable, repeatable, effective, right? We wanted to have clarity around this so that we were giving both the franchisees and the field coach team the proper tools and the right framework that they needed to be successful. We couldn't do that without really doing that deep analysis first. So that's really the first step, is that really awesome deep analysis.
Okay, it's so important, right? We've got to understand what's going on. We also, have to understand whether it's these big brands or even smaller brands. What do you have in place, and that's
Mhm.
working? And then where
Yep,
are those gaps? Because we know
that's
what the
right.
best practices are. We know what's needed to be able to
Mhm.
create this new infrastructure, which is strategic growth coaching. We have to have that solid foundation, to your point, in order to be able to do that. So I think
Mhm.
that's great, Linda. And then how did you evolve from there?
Yeah, great question. From there, we then really started looking at what tools and processes needed to, be evolved to fit in with the strategic growth coaching, right? Because it's not a one size fits all. And so we want to make sure that we really customize this to fit the Happiness portfolio. So we started by defining actually franchisee avatars. So we created different profiles representing the owners at different stages in their journey, and everything from brand new to the seasoned owner to a multi-unit. And this helped us tailor the coaching strategies and the support so that the experience and the challenges and the goals were all taken into consideration along the entire process. Then we really dug in and started customizing the strategic growth coaching toolbox itself. And this is where it really got fun. We took that toolbox and we really broke it apart. And while the toolbox is awesome the way it is right now, we really wanted to make sure that we were taking everything that made it relevant to Happiness brands, their internal processes, their systems and priorities, right? So we adapted it so that it could do that. We created tools and templates and exercises so that it was relevant to them. We designed coaching agendas that gave the field coaches a very clear roadmap for each and every engagement that they were going to have with their franchisees. So it was all spelled out for them. Every session has a purpose, measurable goals, actionable takeaways. They have a blueprint of what they need to do when they're interacting with their franchisees. So this was how we were building consistency in what we do, consistency across all the brands. Every franchisee now has access to the same level of support, and the coaching teams have a repeatable, scalable process that they can follow, which results in a system that is flexible enough to meet individual needs still of the franchisees, but it's strong enough to drive that growth in the portfolio that they're looking for, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's that's amazing. I'm sure that was really well said, Linda. I think people are going to listen to that. Franchisors who are in a situation where like, yes, that's what I need. Because you're spot
Yeah.
on. I couldn't have said it any better. That's for sure. So it's so impactful. And
Mm-hmm.
so if now you did the work with the leadership team, creating all of this stuff. Now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the bigger challenge is the rollout to the coaches who are actually going to deliver this. So
Yeah.
I would love to talk about, that internal team. I think there was maybe
Mm-hmm.
14 coaches or something like that. And so talk about then how then you worked with that group of people and what that all looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the midst of doing this, they hired a couple extras. So I think we ended up with about 17 coaches. But
Okay.
and I yeah, and I have to say their coaches are amazing. They have fabulous coaches on board
Nice.
in all of these different brands. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with all of these folks. But this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is where we are unlearning habits that maybe some of them have had for 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how long they've been there, which is fabulous, right? We've got some very longevity, right? We've got great longevity with some of these folks, with these brands, which speaks very highly, of Happinest. Um, but that also means that we've got a lot of habits of this is the way I've done things, right? This is how I've always done it. You're moving my cheese. So we moved people's cheese. But yeah, this is where we really had to dig in and help them embrace this, right? We had to help them understand the why. Why are we doing this? That's important. We always want to start with the why. It's what we also want to do with our franchisees, right? So once the framework, the SGC framework was designed, that was our next step, was training the internal team to use it, because a great system only works if the people on the ground know how to put it into action and embrace it, right?
Yeah,
It's not gonna work on its own.
that's right.
So we ran training sessions with the field coaches, walking them through the framework, showing them how to use the tools, hands on. We got hands on, right? And I think a key shift was moving the coaches, helping them with their mindset, moving from being in more of a reactive support mode where we're just fighting fires, we're jumping in when someone needs us, when someone calls us, right? Sometimes they were probably be able, a little proactive, but for the most part, it was a more reactive coaching situation to now we are proactively meeting with people. We are setting up proactive calls where we can anticipate challenges instead of reacting to them. We're guiding our franchisees strategically. We're driving measurable outcomes. That's a different game, right? That's a different thing that we're doing here. So we really had to work on that mindset. They were up for it though. I tell you what, they really came ready to embrace it, to learn it. They were excited for it. I think, and I was a field coach and I remember that, that feeling of when you're new and you are like, okay, I'm doing this. Am I doing it right? Am I following the right process? Do I have the right protocols? Am I having the right conversations? Yes. Now we know, like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm following. I know this is my right next step because it's right in front of me, right? There's no question about that. So internal adoption was critical, right? And they had to be confident. That was the other thing. We had to work on getting their confidence high on this because if they're not confident, the franchisees will sniff that out quick.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be hard to get them to adopt it because now we have to get that change made also, right? We have to get the
Yeah.
franchisees to change it to adopt this as well. So, that a lot of hands-on training is, where we started. We also did some other things too, but that's definitely hands-on training was a big key for us.
Right, right. And so I know that you did some kind of group trainings. And did you do one-on-ones or was it mostly groups? Was it everybody together? Was it small group training with the coaches? What did that look like?
Yeah, we started with a live in-person training. They had brought everybody together and did a 2-day training. And so day one, everyone got their hands on the actual tools, the toolboxes, the resources, and Rachel walked them through a deep dive of, all of those resources and how they were going to be using them. And then day two, again, was more of the mindset and how to handle some of the challenges that might come up and how do we get the franchisees, to come to this new process with us? How do we overcome some of those, conversations that might be difficult or tricky when it comes to this? So it was a lot of mindset, soft skills training that we did on day two. So that was where we started. We actually have some ongoing training now, still working on our soft skills and our coaching
Nice.
approach that aligns with this new process. So we have ongoing virtual group trainings that we're doing right now. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And so what do you think that the biggest outcome that you've seen with this happiness engagement? And what lessons maybe from what you've done with them can other franchisors really take from what you're saying about the work you did with happiness?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of the biggest outcomes from the engagement, one, obviously stronger, consistent coaching structure across all brands, right? Franchisees and coaches both having repeatable processes that they can anticipate and follow. They have clear expectations. They know what to expect for each session. And, we're hearing that the franchisees are really enjoying that. They appreciate this. They like this structure. I think, and I've seen this in other brands too, Jen, that I've worked with. As you mentioned, I've done this in several brands.
Hmm.
When we get to this point where we've trained, we've put it together, whatever customization is going to happen for that brand, they're ready to implement it. At that point, the coaches kind of have this moment of, oh boy, this is getting real, and now we have to actually like try to get our franchisees on board with this. And they kind of have this moment of doubt of like they're not going to do this. I'm not going to get my franchisees to actually do this,
Right.
right? Because we've been doing it a different way for so long. I don't think that they are going to want to change. But what inevitably happens almost every time is they do. They appreciate the structure. They appreciate us leaning in a different way and helping them in a different way. They value that because they see the value in it. It is helping them in their business in a new and different way, right?
Mhm.
So the franchisees are feeling supported in a new way. They're enjoying strategic level conversations that they're having with their coach. And the coach can focus on actually driving results instead of just firefighting and reacting to problems all the time. Um, so, it's really great. And I think the lesson here also is it's not just enough to have a great framework. You have to ensure everyone knows how to use it and that they embrace it. If you don't do that, it's not going to go anywhere. But when you do those things, accountability, engagement, and growth can follow.
That's Thank you for this. This kind of leads me to my next question because you're so spot on. One of the things at AC Inc. that we do is we have the accelerator program, and a lot of people obviously know that that's our field coach certification, where we bring cohorts together of around 10 people, and we take them through the program, which lasts about 5 months,
Mhm.
and they get their certification. And so, Linda, rather than Happinest coming and doing that separately, you really brought in the curriculum and you did it internally with them. So I think the goal is that all these guys are going to be certified at the end of this
Mhm.
engagement. And so the benefit though that you had is the relationship that you built with all of these coaches and the trust there that when it got to the implementation period, that you were there to help them, to guide them. And I think that is the downside of people just going through the accelerator and then not working with us to help on the implementation, because it's really the implementation is to what you were saying. That's the hard part. That's where the rubber meets the road. Like I got to now do this, and doing it on their own. And so we really do encourage anyone who's going through the accelerator program to then potentially look at working with us so that we can then help them with this customization stage of the strategic growth coaching toolbox, build the framework, and then help these coaches when they're actually delivering the sessions, and observe them and give them the feedback, and really help them hone those skills, because theory is one thing, but then actually putting it into practice is another. So I think, is there anything else you want to speak to about that maybe backs up what I just said?
Yeah, Jen, you're spot on. And I want to echo the accelerator is fantastic,
Right.
right? Accelerator is wonderful for building knowledge and alignment. And I highly encourage people to check that out. But knowledge alone doesn't drive change, right? You have to have that implementation plan. And I think a lot of brands maybe overestimate their ability to do that implementation, not overestimate it like their ability, to know how to do it. I think it's a time. I think it's their overestimation of time to be able to do it,
Yeah.
time to lead it. We know how to do that already. We've done it time and time again. We've done it rinse and repeat, right? So we already know exactly what to do, how to do it, and we can lead that very seamlessly, and take that pressure off of a brand. Instead of them trying to figure it out and do it, we can lift that load for them. So for Happiness, right, it allowed me to work directly with them to make sure that we were embedding the right things into this framework that supported the day-to-day operations, and that we were able to train the coaches in a way that was going to help them take this highly customized framework and put it in their hands in a way that they could use it.
Mhm.
Um, and that was so important, right? Because otherwise, all of that work would have been for naught. And that is
Right.
not what we wanted, right? We would have definitely wanted to see action on the other side of this. So yeah, them going through Accelerator more with me, and doing it, through a hands-on implementation process, which is the sessions that we're doing right now is part of that Accelerator program that we're finishing up. So it's working out great, and it's wonderful because I'm getting to hear feedback from them as we're going through. Hey, how is that going? We're able to talk through different things as things are coming up during the sessions.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. We one of our kind of best practices with brands that are in a little different situation than Happiness, which is such a big group, is really working with us at the same time as they're one coach, they're three coaches, however many coaches you have, they're going through the accelerator. We do a cohort every month. So they can start the accelerator. We can be working with leadership on the customization. And then once that coach has gone through at least the first 10 sessions or so, where they're really learning the strategic growth coaching toolbox and the how to deliver it, then we can bring them in and we can start working on implementation or whenever the timing works out. So when that happens hand in hand, that's really the ideal situation for the majority of brands, especially those who are a lot smaller than a Happiness situation. So Linda, if I know we've got to wrap up, but if there is a franchisor who's listening right now and they know that they need to strengthen their coaching structure, but doesn't know where to start, what's one piece of advice that you would give to them?
That's a great question. I would say if you're a franchisor and you're listening to this right now and you suspect that your coaching structure might need some work, but you're not sure where to start, I would ask myself this question. Do my franchisees and my coaching team have a clear, repeatable framework to follow? That's where I would probably start. Do we have a clear, repeatable framework? If the answer to that is no, I wouldn't wait. Every day that you delay, you're missing an opportunity to improve this. Franchisees are struggling, probably, right? You're probably getting some inconsistent results, and your coaches are probably chasing their tails. They're probably spending more time, if we're being honest, they're probably spending more time reacting and fighting fires than driving results. So I would absolutely start figuring out how you can get strategic growth coaching in place and ensure that it's adopted, because you'll see better engagement, stronger accountability, better results. The ROI is absolutely worth it.
Amazing. Linda, you've been such a great guest and you've said so many impactful things. And see, not too difficult. Little fun, right? This is one of the topics we love to talk about is how to help franchise systems
It is.
improve and do what they need to do to support their franchisees. So I want to thank you so much for sharing the Happiness story and giving us an inside look as to what strategic growth coaching implementation really looks like. Such a powerful reminder that creating a coaching structure isn't about the theory. It's about designing and delivering the tools, the processes, getting help with the training and implementation to make sure that the foundation is solid so that coaching is effective across the entire system. And for those of you listening, if your brand doesn't have consistent coaching structure, take Linda's story as proof that it can be built and it can work, and the results are worth it. So until next time, go be awesome.